The Japanese fire balloon was the first ever weapon to have intercontinental range. The Japanese balloon attacks on North America were at that time the longest ranged attacks ever conducted in the history of warfare, a record which was not broken until the 1982 Operation Black Buck raids during the Falkland Islands War. The balloons were intended to instill fear and terror in the US, though the bombs were relatively ineffective as weapons of destruction due to extreme weather conditions. From late 1944 until early 1945, the Japanese launched over 9,300 fire balloons, of which 300 were found or observed in the US. Despite the high hopes of their designers, the balloons were ineffective as weapons, causing only 6 deaths and a small amount of damage. Rubberized silk balloon, used for meteorological observation during World War II. Type B rubberized silk balloon, recovered at sea and reinflated. The Type B balloons were sent first and mainly used for meteorological purposes. The Japanese used them to determine the possibility of the bomb-carrying balloons reaching the United States. Japanese bomb-carrying balloons were 33 feet in diameter and, when fully inflated, held about 19,000 cubic foot of hydrogen. General Kusaba's men launched over 9,000 balloons throughout the course of the project. About 300 balloon bombs were found or observed in America. The balloons were intended to make use of a strong current of winter air that the Japanese had discovered, flowing at high altitude and speed over their country, which later became known as the jet stream. The jet stream, reported by Wasaburo Oishi, blew at altitudes above 30,000 feet, and could carry a large balloon across the Pacific in 3 days, over a distance of more than 5,000 miles. Such balloons could carry incendiary and high-explosive bombs to the United States and drop them there to kill people, destroy buildings, and start forest fires. The hydrogen balloon expands when warmed by the sunlight and rises, then it contracts when cooled at night and descends. When the balloon descended below 30,000 feet, it electrically fired a charge to cut loose sandbags. The control system ran the balloon through 3 days of flight. The final flash of gunpowder released the bombs, also carried on the wheel, and lit a 64 feet long fuse that hung from the balloon's equator. The fuse fired a flash bomb that destroyed the balloon. Reconstructed balloon ballast control apparatus. At the moment an explosive charge is detonated to release sandbags, the balloon had to carry about 1,001 pounds of gear. At first the balloons were made of conventional rubberized silk, but improved envelopes had less leakage. An order went out for 10,000 balloons, made of washi, a paper derived from mulberry bushes, that was impermeable and very tough. The bombs most commonly carried by the balloons were Type 92 33-pound high-explosive bomb, consisting of 9.5 pounds picricacid or TNT surrounded by 26 steel rings, within a steel casing 4 inches in diameter and 14.5 inches long and welded to a 11-inch tail fin assembly. The deployment of these biological weapon on fire balloons was planned in 1944. Biological warfare using Fugo balloons was not implemented. Similar, though cruder, balloons were also used by Britain to attack Nazi Germany between 1942 and 1944. A balloon launch organization of 3 battalions was formed. Suitable launch conditions were expected on only about 50 days through the winter period of maximum jet stream velocity, and the combined launch capacity of all 3 battalions was about 200 balloons per day. Gun cameras show balloons being shot down by American P-38 Lightning fighters in Attu, Aleutian Islands, Alaska on April 11, 1945. Initial tests took place in September 1944 and proved satisfactory. However, before preparations were complete, United States Army Air Force's B-29 Superfortress planes began bombing the Japanese home islands. Major Takeda watched as the balloon flew upward and over the sea. The figure of the balloon was visible only for several minutes following its release until it faded away as a spot in the blue sky like a daytime star. A few balloons carried radio sound equipment rather than bombs. These balloons were tracked by direction, finding stations in Ichinomiya, Chiba, in Iwanuma, Miyagi, in Misawa, Aomori, and on Sakhalin to estimate progress toward the United States. On November 4, 1944, a United States Navy patrol craft discovered one of the first radio sound balloons floating off San Pedro, Los Angeles. Deflated fire balloon found on the ground near Bigelow, Kansas on February 23, 1945. Balloon found near Bigelow, Kansas on February 23, 1945. The balloons continued to arrive in Alaska, Hawaii, Oregon, Kansas, Iowa, Washington, Idaho, South Dakota, and Nevada, as well as Canada in British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Alberta, the Yukon, and Northwest Territories. In all, 7 fire balloons were turned into the United States Army in Nevada, Colorado, Texas, northern Mexico, Michigan, and even the outskirts of Detroit. Army Air Forces or Navy fighters scrambled to intercept the balloons, but they had little success. The balloons flew very high and surprisingly fast, and fighters destroyed fewer than 20. Much worse, the Americans had some knowledge that the Japanese had been working on biological weapons, most specifically at the infamous Unit 731 site at Pingfan in northeast China, and a balloon carrying biowarfare agents could be a real threat. Nobody believed the balloons could have come directly from Japan. The US strategy was to keep the Japanese from knowing of the balloon bomb's effectiveness. Cooperating with the desires of the government, the press did not publish any balloon bomb incidents